After I got engaged, my sister dated my fiancé in secret and tried to get pregnant by him, and before you ask how I didn't see it coming, I'll tell you the answer I give my clients when they wonder why they miss the red flags in their own data. You're supposed to trust your inputs. I'm Nora, 31, a product designer who prototypes feelings into buttons. My job is to make choices obvious, friction gentle, and outcomes predictable. I map flows so people don't get lost. And yet I got lost in my own house, in my own family, with a ring on my finger that I thought was a compass and turned out to be a reflective surface I couldn't see past. He was Theo, 33, software architect, the kind of clever that made debugging look like sleight of hand. The first time he made me coffee in my kitchen, he whistled off-key and said, "I like you in mornings," and it felt like a sentence I could live inside. My sister was Juniper, yes, the plant, because my parents were doing whimsical in the 90s. Junie is 29 and has the kind of charisma that makes waiters forget other tables. She is starshine and static all at once. If you've got siblings, you know what I mean. The one who walks in and the room recalibrates around them without asking if anyone wants to move. I got engaged on a Sunday when the light was that particular kind of friendly. He proposed with a monologue that still makes my throat burn, about choosing me on ordinary Tuesdays, about kissing me like we were on purpose. We went to my parents that night, and my mother brought out the bad champagne and the fancy flutes, and my father made his 2 jokes he always makes about dowries and data plans. Junie squealed, grabbed my hand, and said, "It's happening," in a way that made me think of summer camp and hand-holding and promises we made when we were kids about always being each other's home. Here's the part where I tell you about the first crack, except it didn't look like a crack. It looked like generosity. "Let me help you with planning," Junie said, 2 days after the proposal. "You're swamped." "I can do venue calls, I can handle the registry, I speak florist." Registry sounded like Excel in heels. I said yes because I'm the kind of eldest who thinks accepting help is a test and acing it means you're finally not controlling. She made a shared doc with a pastel color palette and a tab called Vendors Vetted, and another called Surprises Don't Click Nora. It was sweet and manipulative in the exact way sweetness becomes a tool. Theo and Junie got close the way people do when they're working on a project. She texted in a group thread she named the Party People, and them being buds felt like one of those modern women things I could be proud of. When he texted her separately once, twice about "is greenery a vibe?" I didn't flinch because I am not a jealous person, I am a planner. Jealousy is a bug report, I triage reasons. The first alert didn't ping on my heart, it pinged in my calendar. I saw a block labeled cake tasting on a Thursday afternoon while I was in a sprint review. I had moved the tasting to Saturday. Did the bakery reschedule? I texted. No reply because I sent it at 3:12 and my phone showed me those gray little dots like a heartbeat and then nothing. At 5:40, Theo texted, "You're going to love the pistachio." He used the plural "you're" sloppily, like he forgot he was talking to one person. "With who?" I sent. He didn't answer for an hour because he was driving, and then it was us 3 with 3 exclamation points like he thought punctuation equals absolution. I was annoyed. I was not yet suspicious. Suspicion is a skill. It requires practice I don't want. My friend Lila was the first person to use the word boundary out loud. We were eating noodles too fast on a bench that tried to tip. "You trust her because she's your sister," she said, mouth full, "and you trust him because he's your fiancé. But there's a third entity here, Theo and Junie, and none of your models account for it." I laughed and said, "They're just planning." She shrugged in that way people shrug when they've said their piece and love you anyway. We went dress shopping. Junie cried at the 3rd dress because she cries easily and beautifully, and I thought, thank God my reaction looks more like thinking, one of us should be stable. My mother cried at all of them because she's an equal opportunity faucet. I picked a gown that felt like wearing a sentence I could finish, clean, pocketed, yes, with a low back that made me stand up straighter. We ate greasy fries in the parking lot and Junie said, "Don't ever leave me," and I said, "Never," the way sisters do, even though I was literally preparing to build a next chapter 20 minutes away from the house we grew up in. If this were a movie, the dramatic reveal would happen at a party with dim blue light. In reality, it happened in the most boring way. My sister's lock screen lit up on my kitchen island while she was in the bathroom, and I happened to glance because light is designed to be looked at. A text preview, I'm late. Not capital I. I've never met someone who turns capitalization into character so consistently. The sender, UN labeled number. The reply above it half visible, keep me posted. This would make everything so simple. And then the bubbles, that manipulative little animation of trying and nothing else. I went cold in a way that didn't even feel like anger. It felt like stepping out of my body and standing next to it a little to the left. She came back into the room with cheeks too flushed. I asked, because I believe in giving people chances to tell the truth before I bring my receipts like a librarian. Are you okay? She smiled too quickly. Just cramps, she said and grabbed her phone. It buzzed again. She didn't look at it. If I were a novelist, I'd say time slowed. It didn't. It sped up. The dog barked at nothing. My neighbor's car alarm went off and then stopped. Theo texted our group thread a photo of a couch and wrote thoughts because he had decided we would be the kind of people who own a couch too low to the ground to sit on like adults. I didn't accuse. I watched. Once you suspect a pattern, you see it everywhere. Theo started stepping outside to take calls. Junie started showing up because she was in the neighborhood of a neighborhood she never visits unless there's free charcuterie. The registry was suddenly populated with baby items by mistake that she swore were cute gadgets for our godson. Theo started saying we, and I realized he didn't mean me. He meant the idea of me plus whatever narrative he could control. My therapist Nora says when your brain can't hold it, your body tries to. My body tried. I couldn't keep food down for a week. I developed a blister on my thumb from doom scrolling. I went for runs at 6 a.m. because moving forward felt profound in a petty way. At night I lay awake listening to the building settling like it had a secret. Live again, bless her, not to be the spy cousin, but Junie posted a close friend story, she texted, a green circle around a photo of 2 cocktails and 2 hands, the man hand with the old scar near the thumb that I knew because I kissed it once after he cut himself chopping mint. The caption, to everything working out. She had put a sparkly filter on it. People tell on themselves in glitter. I didn't confront them that night because I knew if I went and half-cocked my words would come out crooked and someone would call me dramatic, and then I'd have to spend 2 weeks forgiving myself for losing the plot. Instead, I built a file. I am not proud of this, and I am also not sorry. Screenshots. Timestamps. Calendar overlaps. The pistachio cake photo with 3 forks and only 2 shadows. The Uber receipts on Theo's email with drop-offs near my sister's apartment at 1:43 a.m. He's not a fool, he used cash sometimes. But people who believe themselves charismatic also believe their luck is loyalty. He got lazy. He got sloppy. The story wrote itself. I asked Junie to come over for tea on a Wednesday because Wednesdays are liminal. Nobody expects a scene midweek. She arrived late carrying pastries like penance and didn't hug me as tight as usual, which is how you know guilt has entered a room. I poured tea and sat on the floor so I couldn't loom. Then I did something Nora taught me. I named the behavior without naming the story. You're spending a lot of time with Theo without me, I said. It makes me anxious. She did the thing toddlers do when they're about to deny. She smiled big, bad teeth, said, "Oh my God, no, too fast. We're just helping you. You're always so stressed. Do you know how many favors I've done?" "Yes," I said. "And I'm grateful for the ones I asked for." Her eyes flashed. She is allergic to not being praised for things no one needed. "You're paranoid," she said, voice going small, righteous. I put my phone face down on the rug because evidence is not a conversation starter, it's an ender. "How late are you?" I asked. She didn't blink. 2 days, she said, and then immediately, "I mean, who said that?" "Are you? Did you read my phone?" "I saw a preview," I said. "You left it on my counter." I didn't pick it up. She sat very still. Then she did the thing I had hoped she wouldn't do because it would force me into a corner. She cried. Junie cries beautifully, like a perfume ad. My tears are a mess, hers are persuasive. "You have everything," she said, voice shaking now, some old acid bubbling up through fresh hurt. You have a career that people understand. You have a man who actually shows up. You were always the good one. The leader. What did Dad call you, the compass? I was the circus. I wanted something that was mine. You wanted something that was mine, I said evenly because someone had to say the adult shape of it out loud. He loves me, she said. He loves himself, I said. He loves the way he looks loving you. He loves the way he looks saving me. He will love the way he looks abandoning you. It came out colder than I expected, but the words felt like removing stitches from a wound that was healing crooked. Don't be cruel, she said. Then don't make me narrate the cruelty, I said back. I was shaking after, not because I didn't believe it, but because there is nothing like saying the true thing about someone you love and hearing the echo of the 12-year-old who shared your bed after nightmares. She stood, knocked the tea, apologized, didn't pick it up, grabbed her bag like it owed her money, and left. 30 minutes later, Theo texted, "Can we talk?" He had never been good with the phone during conflict. He prefers in-person charm because his face is a tool. Sure, I wrote. Come by. He arrived with a face like a boy rehearsing remorse. I had put the file away because I don't want to live a life where my first line is always a receipt. I asked a smaller question first. Do you love me? I said. He looked relieved because this was his native language. Of course, he said, moving toward me. I love you. God, Nora, I love you. What are you doing with your mouth? I was smiling a little without humor because I had realized something simple. It's possible to say I love you and mean I love the mirror you hold up to me. How long? I asked. He tried the route of plausible deniability. How long what? You and Junie, I said. He sat, then stood, like the couch was a witness he didn't trust. It's not, there's no end. It was, look, I was alone. You work late. You were lonely, I translated. So you asked the nearest worshipper to lay hands on you. It's not like that, he said. What is it like? I asked, genuinely curious because if you're going to blow your life up, you should at least get your metaphor right. He finally said something that wasn't performance. She sees me, he said. When I talk, she doesn't make me footnote. She thinks I'm the story. And I make you edit, I said, unable to stop the irony from showing up like a friend who makes everything a bit too neat. Do you want to be seen or do you want to be flattered? He didn't answer because we both knew. Are you trying to get her pregnant? I asked, and he flinched, which is different from lying. No, he said. I mean, look, we weren't. There were times, Nora, I didn't plan. I love you. Stop saying it like it's a tourniquet, I said. We're past first aid. He paced. He is beautiful when he's thinking. It used to be my favorite. Now it looked like a magician shuffling an empty deck. It was a mistake, he said finally, landing on the square men land on when they want their narcissism to sound humble. I'll fix it. No, I said. I will. I took off the ring and put it on the table between us like a museum object. We're done. He reached for me then, and I stepped back because I didn't trust my knees not to do something humiliating like forgive him out of muscle memory. Please, he said. Don't do this. Not like this. Talk to me. I am talking, I said. You don't hear conversation, you hear auditions. He left a different shape than when he came in. I sat on the floor, leaned my forehead on the cold cabinet, and let my body do the crying my mind had been postponing. Lila came over and held my hair and fed me the salty crackers we keep for hangovers, and I shook like a branch and then like a bridge and then like myself. The next day, Junie sent a photo of a positive test to a group thread with me and our mom that had been mostly recipes and reminders to bring napkins to birthdays. I stared at it the way you stare at a fire alarm wondering whether you should be dramatic or sensible. She followed it with, "We're happy," and I wondered for a minute about the pronoun. I replied, "I'm sorry," and then turned off notifications because there is nothing to do with that information that isn't either a wound or a weapon. My mother called, voice already in that register she uses for tragedy that still has a chance at being community theater. We can all get through this, she said. family first. I said, my family is me, and she cried because I said it in a tone she associates with disrespect and I associate with survival. My father texted a thumbs up because he is a man born in the generation of emoji says apologies. My aunt sent a long message about sisters and forgiveness and I sent back a very short message about consent, loyalty and arithmetic. Theo tried 3 more times. A letter on paper because he thinks nostalgia does magic, a playlist called Begin Again because no one has ever told him about irony, and a voicemail where he cried in a way that would have worked on the version of me that existed in September. I did not return any of them. I did one thing boring and brave. I went to my doctor and asked for a full panel of tests because my body deserved due diligence. She asked if I felt safe. I said yes and no. She asked if I had support. I said yes. She asked if I wanted to talk to someone. I said I already do, but I would take a pamphlet anyway because paper feels like something you can hold when your life has gone water. Junie miscarried at 7 weeks. She told my mother told me, and then 20 minutes later called again to cry about how hard it was to carry bad news. Junie did not text me. Lila said, do you want to go to her? And I said, I want to, which is not the same thing as yes. I sent flowers because grief is still grief even if its origin story is a betrayal you can smell in your walls. She didn't respond. Silence can be revenge, it can also be rest. Here's the part where I tell you about the aftermath and pretend it was a straight line. It wasn't. I bounced off walls. I slept on my couch because my bed had become negligent. I went back to work and designed a cleaner onboarding flow like excellence could be a moral mouthwash. I moved the wedding folder to an archive called Do Not Open. I kept the dress for a month because I thought maybe I'd wear it to a Halloween party as a joke and then realized I am not built that way. I donated it to a nonprofit that outfits people for courthouse ceremonies they can afford, and I asked the tailor for a thread from the hem, which I keep in my wallet like a tiny receipt for a big decision. I learned things. I learned my fear of being called dramatic is a leash I had tied around my own throat. I learned that I can say no more and live through the echo. I learned that asking how could she is less useful than asking why didn't I believe me sooner. I do not say that to blame myself. I say it because self-trust is a skill set no one teaches girls who are praised for peacemaking. I also learned who shows up in the ugliest light. My mother eventually came over with soup and an apology that did not have an asterisk. She cried and said, I groomed you to be gracious, and I said, I'm retiring, and she laughed through snot and said, good. My father tried to fix it with lawn work even though I live in an apartment. He hung a shelf for me that isn't straight and we both decided straight was not a value we needed that day. He said, I don't know how to parent adult daughters, and I said ask, and he said how, and I said like that. My grandmother, who is 90 and has outlived patience as a hobby, told me a story about her sister stealing a boyfriend in 1954 and how she forgave her not because forgiveness is noble but because she didn't want to be tied to that girl forever. She said, you can forgive without attending the barbecue, and I wrote it on a sticky note you can still find on my fridge. 2 months later, Junie texted, can we talk? No question mark. We met at a park because neutral ground matters. She looked smaller, which is a terrible sentence but a true one. I brought water and tissues and prepared to be both soft and steel. She said, I'm sorry first, and then, I was so angry you got good love, and then I wanted to burn it down and walk through warm. I cried because it was the sentence I had suspected and didn't want to name. She said, I don't expect you to forgive me, and I said, good, because expectations are violence. We sat for an hour and made 3 agreements. She would not text my ex-fiancé again. She would not tell stories about me to the family that were actually about her. I would not use her worst decision as my favorite anecdote. We left without hugging. I felt both lighter and older, which might be the only true measure of growth. Theo moved cities. I know because he posted a photo of a skyline with the caption New Beginnings, and people with less context than me sent him little rocket emojis. The internet has never been a place for nuance. Sometimes I want to comment grow up, but the adult thing is often boring, so I put my phone down and water my plants and text Lila a photo of soup and go for a walk where the trees do not care about me one way or the other and it feels like medicine. This year I turned 31 and threw myself a party with a theme Lila invented and borrowed. Everyone brought a dish they had invented or ruined and then redeemed. We told stories about things we kept, our names, our apartments, our choices. I made a speech that lasted 3 minutes and did not mention either of them by name. It mentioned me by name, which felt like a miracle I had not anticipated. If you need a thesis because stories without them make your teeth itch, here's mine. Love is not a scarcity sport. But if someone treats it like a prize they can win by trespass, your job is not to pity their hunger, it's to lock your doors. The lock is not bitterness, the lock is respect. You can leave a glass of water on the porch. You do not have to invite them into your kitchen. And if the person at the door is your sister, you can hand her a map and a hug and still keep the deadbolt engaged until she reads it. I am dating again slowly with the dignity of someone who knows how to read their own heart without outsourcing the captions. I disclose the saga on the 4th date because 3rd date disclosure felt performative. I tell men I need consent in logistics the way I need it in bed. Announce your arrivals, don't triangulate me with the people who think they own me, and don't call me paranoid when my gut is doing its evolutionary job. The ones worth keeping say, of course, and then do it without turning it into content. At work, I designed a feature I fought for, trust nudges. They are gentle prompts that say the quiet thing out loud. Are you sure you want to share this? With whom? The devs teased me for anthropomorphing caution. The users thanked me with lower churn and higher retention because humans like to be asked before we are used. Sometimes I look at that little microcopy, ask before you add, check before you change, and I laugh because it's the thesis of every fight I've had in a year, written in 12-point font and A/B tested. I am still sisters with Junie. It is not the same as before. It is slower. We do lunch in places with good exits. We text memes and leave the heavy lifting for therapy. She dated someone new and told me before the 3rd date because that was one of our bargains. I went to one of her comedy nights and laughed at the jokes that weren't about me and stayed quiet for the ones that were, and afterward she said, "Did I cross a line?" And I said yes, and she said okay, and she took the bit out the next week. It felt like slightly less air leaving a room. Sometimes I still wake up with my heart doing that horse gallop and I reach for anger like it's a robe. Sometimes I put it on, wear it while I make coffee, then hang it back up because I don't want to go outside wearing that. Sometimes I think about the version of me who would have married a man who wanted to be adored by whichever of us was easiest that day, and I want to write that girl a letter. You are not a test he gets to pass by cheating. You are the grade. You get to decide whether the class counts. If you're in the thick of it, if your throat is closing around a sentence you don't want to be true, here's the simplest thing anyone said to me that helped. Your life is not a group project. People can volunteer, they cannot submit work in your name. And if they do, you can fail the assignment and take the class again without shame. Last week I opened the drawer where I keep the tiny thread from the dress hem and the dog's vaccination records and other proof that I am real, and I held it in my fingers until my pulse slowed. Proof is lovely. But I think I trust myself now even without it. I am done prototyping my boundaries. They're shipped. I'll iterate if I need to, but the release notes are simple. I believe me the first time. I do not celebrate anniversaries I am not invited to. I ask for receipts only when someone insists we're crazy. And I keep the lock engaged until the knock sounds like language I know.